everyone, welcome back to Research Ready. We are now on episode 3. I'm Ali, your host for today. Last episode, we talked about building a strong literature review. Now it's time for the next big step, designing your research. And this is all where your ideas finally start to take shape. So you figure out what you actually do to your study. So, sa mga nahihirapan mag-decide ng research design para sa thesis nila, today we'll hear practical tips from our very own guest, Ma'am Frances Michelle Nubla and Ma'am Mary Grace Joyce Besiño, our research associates from the Ateneo Social Science Research Center. They are here to guide us in designing our research. Thank you so much, Ma'am Mitch and Ma'am Grace, for joining us today.
Thank you also for the invitation.
So, for our first question, how do we determine the design of our study? In other words, when do we go for qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method?
Okay. Sige, when we are choosing kung ano ba talaga yung method na gagamitin natin for our research, quanti ba yan, quali ba yan, or mixed method, nakadepende talaga yan kung ano yung question na gusto nating tanungin. Actually, kabisado naman na natin to. If you want to provide counts, percentages, check for significant differences, you want to explain the contribution of various factors to your outcomes, then that's quantitative research. If you want naman to gain a deeper understanding of a certain phenomenon, to explain bakit siya nangyayari or mas maintindihan kung paano siya nangyayari. And also, pag may mga emerging pa lang na phenomenons na hindi pa natin siya masyadong naintindihan, wala pang established tool to measure it, ganyan, dyan naman natin ginagamit ang qualitative research. And then finally, if for example, you want to explain quantitative data in terms of experiences, perspectives, pagpapalalim ng numbers, that's when you do mixed methods. Minsan, ang usual problem talaga dyan is the mismatch ng research problem natin at saka ng design natin. So, minsan ang problem natin is very quantitative, pero ipinipilit natin na qualitative yung method. Minsan kasi doon tayo comfortable, pero diyan tayo nagkakaroon ng problema. So, dapat lang palagi nating tandaan, align ba yung question natin at saka yung ating method. Kasi eventually, itong method mo is your evidence or your proof to answer your research problem. Kaya dapat align sila.
Yes.
Ayun. So, idagdag ko lang siguro sa nabanggit ni Mitch is yung madalas na concern or challenges na na-experience ng mga students na ay baka wala na akong mai-contribute sa existing knowledge na to, baka madami nang nagawa sa topic na ito, which is in reality kapag nag-dive ka talaga sa literature, lalong-lalo na sa recommendation section ng mga journal articles, makikita natin na madami pa palang gaps na pwedeng i-address yung napili natin na research topic or yung paper natin. So, halimbawa, for example, dito sa study na nagawa namin on Vote of the Poor in 2016, tiningnan namin kung paano nakikita ng voters yung mga political strategies ng mga kandidato. So, in-address namin dito is yung population gap. So, ano ba yung population gap? Usually kasi kapag sinabi nating poor or mahihirap, ang usual notion lang natin sa kanila is yung walang pera, walang trabaho, o nakatira sa informal settlements. Pero kung iisipin natin, ang poverty is multidimensional. So, pwedeng apektado ito ng geography, kung saan tayo nakatira. Pwedeng access to livelihood, meron bang access or wala sa livelihood, pati na rin sa mga services. And exposed ba yung mga tao sa disasters or armed conflict. So, kaya dito sa study namin, sinama namin ang mga rural poor, urban poor, at pati na rin yung mga biktima ng mga disasters at armed conflict. So, in that way, na-address namin yung population gap na madalas nakakalimutan. Kasi kadalasan, ginagawa natin na parang iisang grupo lang yung may hirap. When in fact, iba-iba yung experience and political participation nila. And isa pang type is yung methodological gap naman, kung saan gumagamit ka ng bagong paraan para makakuha ng ibang insights sa topic na ito. So, meron kami ngayong ginagawa, yung research team namin ni Ma'am Mitch, sa DOST-funded study on a survey on mental health services on public and private colleges in the Bicol region. So, ang goal nitong study is sukatin kung available ba at kumpleto ba and maayos ba yung structures and processes ng mental health services ng mga schools dito sa Bicol region. And isang bagay ito na bihira pa talagang napag-aaralan, lalo na sa konteksto ng Bicol at pati na rin ng ibang probinsya at rehiyon sa Pilipinas. And actually, may iba't iba pang klase ng research gap. Hindi ko na siguro i-discuss, pero ang tip ko lang siguro is kapag nag-explore tayo ng literature, ng related literature para sa study natin, para makita yung research gaps na gusto nating i-address, we should try to ensure na yung tinitingnan natin at binabasa natin ay yung high quality, peer-reviewed at Scopus Index journals para siguradong reliable yung information na makukuha natin and updated din tayo sa global research trends.
I see, ma'am. Actually, to add, what I'm really learning about this first question na sinagot niyo, ma'am, when designing your research, andun na yung curiosity Like, normal na din sa atin, na mga students din and researchers na may curiosity tayo. And also, we know that this is the why. But also, we have to learn the hows. Kumbaga, alam natin paano siya i-discover, how to unfold the secrets ba ng mga behavior, attitude, and even the numbers. So, that's for our, kumbaga, yan yung mga kailangan talaga namin i-take note as researchers. Since malinaw na po sa atin yung research design, ano pa po yung mga kailangan natin i-consider?
Maganda din na ma-consider natin kung saan tayo mas komportable. Komportable ba tayo sa numbers? Komportable ba tayo sa text? Or sa narratives? Or sa stories ng mga ini-interview natin? Kasi kung nasaan yung comfort natin, mas magiging natural sa atin yung pag-gather ng data. Pero syempre, hindi mo pwedeng ipilit yung saan ka komportable para masagot yung research problem mo. Pero may mga paraan kung paano mo pwedeng i-tweak yung research problem mo na say it's quantitative siya, baka pwede natin siyang i-reformulate into qualitative and then you can be in your comfortable form when you collect your data. Magkakaiba kasi yan yung proseso ng qualitative at saka quantitative. Nandyan yung sa number pa lang nang i-interviewin natin, pag sinabi natin na survey at the minimum 100 respondents. So mahaba at paulit-ulit yan na pag-interview, pero meron kanyang tool. Isang klase lang yung tanong mo na paulit-ulit. Unlike pag qualitative interview, meron kang say 4 or 5 or 6 key questions, pero yung respondent mo, hindi mo alam kung paano siya magre-respond doon. So, you have to be ready for those kinds of surprises. Ready ka na mag-conduct ng follow-up questions, elaborations, yung mga questions na kailangan mo pang itanong para mas maiintindihan mo yung sitwasyon or experience or perspective ng participant. Siyempre, ang differences din ng process ng quantitative and qualitative research is dun sa preparation prior to data collection. Sa quantitative research, dahil nga gusto mo lahat ng concepts maka-capture mo siya when you collect your data, dapat rigid dyan ang literature review mo. Kasi gusto mo na lahat ng kailangan mong itanong, maka-capture mo na siya sa interviews. Sa qualitative data, ang mas maproseso would be the after the data collection, yung preparation ng transcripts, note-taking, analysis, na sa quantitative research, pipindutin mo na lang siya Pag na-encode mo siya, yes, no, strongly agree, 1 to 5, or income man yan, i-click mo na lang siya pag may software ka. Mas mabilis yung pag-process ng data sa quantitative research. So yung weight no, ng labor is sa quanti prior to the data collection. Sa qualitative, it's after the data collection. Siyempre, yung equivalent na yung dami ng literature na review na binasa mo sa quanti para makabuo ka ng concepts. Nandun naman siya sa dami ng narratives, ay hindi naman sa dami, pero sa haba ng transcripts na babasahin mo pagkatapos mo ng qualitative data collection.
Okay. So, siguro yung idadagdag ko lang sa mga nabanggit ni Ma'am Mitch. Kasi isa pa sa mga challenges na na-experience ng mga estudyante pagdating naman sa pagpili ng qualitative research design is minsan pinipili nila ito dahil madalas iniisip natin na konti lang yung kailangan na research participants sa qualitative research. Kaya feeling ko mas mura yung magagastos ko pagdating sa qualitative research kasi nga konti lang yung research participants. Pero ang hindi natin nare-realize na yun nga, nabanggit ni Ma'am Mitch na mas matagal yung proseso kapag pagdating na sa transcription at data processing and analysis ng qualitative. At isa pa siguro madalas marinig natin sa mga gumagawa or pumipili ng qualitative research design is yung siguro 5 lang yung kailangan kong interviewin or 10 lang, okay na yan. Pero ang tanong, bakit kaya 5 yung napili mong respondents? Bakit 10? So dito pumapasok yung concept ng theoretical saturation. Ibig sabihin nito, magkukolek ka at mag-a-analyze ka ng data hanggat wala nang panibagong insights na nakukuha ka para sagutan yung research questions mo. Based on the literature kasi, around 9 to 7 research participants yung kailangan nating interviewin para ma-reach natin yung saturation level, yung theoretical saturation. And sa thematic analysis naman, kapag mag-analyze na tayo ng qualitative data, kadalasan lumalabas dapat na 6 to 10 broad themes at 4 to 6 codes per theme yung kailangan para ma-reach natin yung theoretical saturation. Pero, syempre, nakadepende pa rin ito sa nature ng study mo, sa diversity ng participants, at sa lalim ng study mo. And another thing siguro, gusto ko lang din i-emphasize yung coding process. Sa qualitative research kasi, nililabelan muna natin yung mga words or phrases mula sa transcripts na nakukuha natin. So, ito yung tinatawag, yung label is yung code na tinatawag natin. Pagkatapos nating pagsama-samahin yung codes, dito lumalabas yung categories hanggang sa maging themes siya na sumasagot na sa research questions natin. So, sa madaling sabi, ganito natin dapat in-organize ang data natin. At syempre, emphasize ko lang din yung importante na skills na dapat meron yung isang qualitative researcher. Pati na rin yung quantitative researcher. Dapat unang-una marunong kang mag-build ng rapport at trust with your research participants. At hindi ka lang basta nagtatanong. Dapat marunong kang mag-probe, mag-follow up ng tama sa mga sagot na binibigay sa iyo ng research participants. And paano mo ito magagawa? You should have active listening skills. Hindi lang question and answer. Dapat marunong ka din makinig ng maayos. So, kasi sa qualitative, hindi lang ito yes or no questions. Yun nga, it is about asking the right follow-up questions that matter. And also, we should not forget, nabanggit kanina ni Ma'am Mitch, yung note-taking, yung importance ng note-taking skills. Kasi, lalong-lalo na kapag nasa field ka, dapat lagi kang may dalang notebook and pen. Ako nakasanayan ko yung notebook and pens. Pero ngayon, okay na sa atin yung tablets, cellphones for note-takings. Anyway, kasi bawat observation and conversation that is happening in the field is a form of evaluable data. So, kung pipiliin mo yung qualitative research, remember, hindi siya laging madali. Pero kung maayos ang proseso mo, mula sa research problem, data collection, and data analysis, your findings will make sense.
Yes, actually, I just want to highlight na when it comes to qualitative and quantitative, usually kasi pag mga student researcher like us, lagi namin kino-compare kung ano yung mas madali. Although pag quantitative, madami lang talaga yung kailangan ng participant. But when it comes to analysis, mas madali siya. And then pag qualitative, konti, pero mas grabe lang talaga yung understanding and pagpapalawak din nung transcription, note-taking. But also at the same time, most likely kasi sa amin, napapansin talaga namin more on quantitative. But also, I think it's also a challenge for us na, example, magkaroon naman kami ng another research design na kung ano talaga yung tailor fit, like example, hindi namin expect qualitative pala talaga yung tailor fit na design for that, we must take the challenge na ikunin yung ganong design at the same time to really understand so that we feed the curiosity which we go back to the problems and the gaps, diba? So, yes, thank you, ma'am, for giving us the run-through of what we can expect when we opt quali or quanti. So, hindi lang siya about number samples and consideration for opting for quali and quanti but also for questionnaire design to analyze. So, kanina po nabanggit natin in determining the research design, kailangan i-consider ang framework. So, how does theoretical or conceptual framework guide the questionnaire design and analysis?
So, okay. Ako muna yung sasagot. So, before we talk about how the research framework connects to our research design, let's try to clear up one common confusion. It's the difference between a theoretical and conceptual framework. Now, sino ba dito yung marunong magluto? We can try to think about our research as cooking. Your research design is your recipe, while your framework is your kitchen. So it is the setup that keeps everything in order so you can cook your study thoroughly and smoothly. And if you are the cook, di ba, gusto mo, bago ka magsimula, maayos muna yung kusina mo. Ready yung stove, merong gas yung stove, yung kaldero, malinis, yung kutsilyo, at kumpleto yung mga sangkap na gagamitin mo. So, when your kitchen is organized, cooking is a lot more easier. And that's exactly what your framework does into your research design. So, it helps everything come together and in order. And now, the theoretical framework is like your cooking method. Name it, frying, baking, grilling. They are tried and tested ways you choose from, just like you have to base your study in an existing theory. And the conceptual framework, on the other hand, is your personal setup naman. It is how you arrange your ingredients and how you plan your timing, and it is how you make your own way of making your dish work. Then comes your research design, which is your recipe. Pwedeng adobo, kaldereta, pwede naman baking ng cookie. It is, and once your kitchen, method, and recipe are set, you list your ingredients, and those are your concepts. So, yung concepts, dapat ini-specify mo kung gaano siya kadami in terms of amount and form. So, that's when you go into operational definition naman. And one last note lang siguro, in qualitative research, yung concepts kasi aren't fixed variables, unlike in quanti. They are flexible, evolving ideas. Kung kaya, we use open-ended questions in qualitative para to let participants explain in their own way about how they experience this phenomenon or ideas. So, that's it.
Kung binanggit ni Grace, no, yung connection ng theoretical framework natin, conceptual framework, and research design, gamit ang pagluluto, edi ipagpatuloy natin ang pagluluto. Ano naman ang connection ng theoretical framework, conceptual framework sa quantitative or qualitative method? Siguro pwede natin ikumpara ang qualitative research as cooking. Kasi di ba pag nagluluto tayo, may iba't iba yan na paraan ng pagluluto. Kunyari, pag magluluto ka ng adobo, may iba na nagigisa muna ng sibuyas at saka bawang bago nilalagay yung karne. May iba na nagmamarinate muna. So, sa qualitative research, may flexibility kasi siya eh. So, parang katulad siya ng pagluluto, may mga hindi ka nabasa sa literature review, pero nung nagkanda ka na ng data, may hindi ka nabasa sa literature review, perhaps kasi Western yung mga studies. Pero nung in-implement mo siya dito sa context ng Pilipinas, may mga surprises ka nga na nakuha. So, ganun yun na sa ganun yung klase ng flexibility na meron sa qualitative research. Pero ang quantitative research kasi para siyang baking. Kailangan lahat ng ingredients mo, kung gaano siya karami, nandyan na siya lahat. Kasama na siya bago mo pa siya isalang sa oven. Bago ka pa mag-collect ng data, dapat alam mo na lahat ng kailangan mong makuha. Kasi hindi mo na siya pwede i-edit. Hindi katulad ng pag nagluluto ka, pag matabang or kulang sa paminta, pwede mo pa siyang idagdag. Sa baking, walang edit na ganun eh. Kailangan mo siya ulitin lahat. So, yan siguro yung main difference din ng qualitative at saka quantitative research na ini-emphasize natin kanina pa. Kailangan malinaw na malinaw sa atin kung ano yung gusto nating tingnan, particularly for quantitative research. And then for qualitative research, we have to be able to capture or embrace surprises when we see them. Minsan, common ko din na na-observe, pag hindi tayo ready or hindi natin ina-anticipate yung sagot ng participants natin sa qualitative research, dinidisregard natin. But that's the value of qualitative research eh. Kasi yung mga surprises na yun, yung kailangan mong ma-capture sa data collection mo.
I see. Ang galing lang no, ma'am, na naipasok natin yung cooking, yung recipe, and then yung baking. Because what I'm understanding here now is, of course, review of related literature and research design, magkapatid siya eh. Pero sa what you have already told us in this topic, kumbaga, it's a generation. Yung review of related literature, kung sa cooking, yun yung recipe ng lola ko or lolo ko, mga ninuno pa. So ngayon, with our research design na may gusto ka tayong malaman, in cooking naman, it's our own recipe na. So in this regard, ang kagandahan talaga ng learning about this research design is we are able to really uncover things that we can still see and we can still know more about. So before we end, what's your final words or advice for a student conducting research?
Siguro sa akin is to fill in authentic gaps, no? Minsan, nabanggit ko kanina na pwede nating i-tweak yung design natin. Pwede natin i-tweak yung question natin doon sa kung saan tayo comfortable. Pero if we really want to fill in knowledge gaps, we have to be brave. Nabanggit mo nga kanina. We have to be brave to embrace kung ano man yung method or design na dinedemand netong gaps na gusto nating tingnan. Kasi pag ganyan, we also grow as a researcher, as experts no in our field by filling in authentic gaps.
For you, Ma'am Grace.
Okay, sa akin naman siguro yung advice ko para sa mga students na nagre-research is not to think about research as a burden or just a requirements for graduation. Pero let's try to think about research, the whole research process, as a way or as a tool to develop our critical thinking skills, our communication skills, and interpersonal skills. And in this light, we also have to appreciate it in terms of making evidence-based decisions, helping us how to make evidence-based decisions. Kasi nga ngayon, lalong-lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng AI, ang dami-daming misinformation, disinformation, and fake news na lumalaganap, hindi lang sa social media, pero everywhere. So, yan, makakatulong sa atin yung research para nga to fight this this misinformation and disinformation.
Thank you, ma'am. That is actually a reminder for us student researchers that you just do it, di ba, for compromising, but also be intentional with what we want to learn and what we want to know and understand more. So, read with purpose, stay curious, and make your own work. And that's a wrap for episode 3 of Research Ready, from topic to thesis. Thank you, Ma'am Mitch and Ma'am Grace. For everyone who's watching here, thank you. Keep going and keep learning. Kapit lang mga researchers. Until next time, happy researching.